Jacob Mercer straightened his designer tie, a gift from the cult leader who believed him to be their newest wealthy recruit. As he prepared to infiltrate the organization that had claimed his sister's life. Through the compound gates, he could see white-robed followers moving like ghosts, their vacant smiles masking the psychological prison he was about to willingly enter. Armed with nothing but his silver tongue and a hidden recording device, what dark secrets will Jacob uncover as he descends deeper into the cult's inner circle, and will his redemption cost him everything? If this story touched your heart, like and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts in the comments below. 3 months earlier, Jacob sat in his downtown apartment, staring at the detective's text message. His hands trembled as he dialed the number. "Mr. Mercer, I'm sorry for your loss," the detective said. "Your sister left a note. Standard procedure requires an investigation, but the Eternal Light Center has been cooperative." Cooperative. Jacob's voice hardened. Amelia would never kill herself. The evidence suggests otherwise. Her note mentioned feeling unworthy of ascension. After the call, Jacob researched obsessively. The Eternal Light Spiritual Center, founded by Elijah Stone 15 years ago, promised transcendence through generosity and spiritual purification. Their website showcased testimonials from celebrities and business leaders. Their tax-exempt status revealed annual donations exceeding $20 million. Jacob recognized a perfect con when he saw one. He'd grown up protecting Amelia from their alcoholic father, learning early how to lie convincingly, how to become whoever people needed him to be. Those skills evolved into elaborate confidence schemes, targeting corrupt businessmen and greedy investors. He wasn't proud of it, but he'd never targeted the vulnerable like Stone. Jacob created a new identity. Jacob Reynolds, tech entrepreneur who'd recently sold his startup for millions. He attended a public recruitment session in an upscale hotel ballroom. Financial abundance follows spiritual abundance. The recruiter, Sharon, explained to the room full of well-dressed seekers, "When we release our attachment to wealth, we gain true prosperity." Jacob approached her afterward, casually mentioning his recent windfall and spiritual emptiness. "Money hasn't filled the void," he confided, watching her eyes light up. "I'm seeking meaning." Over the next weeks, Jacob carefully played the part of the wealthy, spiritually curious bachelor. He rented an expensive car, wore tailored suits, and hinted at his fortune during coffee meetings with Sharon. "Elijah has a gift for guiding lost souls like yours," she told him during their third meeting, "especially those willing to contribute to our mission." "I'd like to meet him," Jacob replied. "Our annual retreat for potential benefactors is next month." Sharon smiled. "I'll recommend you personally." At home, Jacob contacted Vanessa Chen, an investigative journalist who'd been trying to expose the Eternal Light Center for years. "They're careful," she warned over encrypted video. "Previous whistleblowers have been discredited or disappeared. Your sister might have been one of them." "Then I'll be more careful," Jacob replied, showing her the recording devices he'd acquired. Modified watch, a pen, and a small camera hidden in his tie clip. "If I don't check in every 48 hours, publish what you have, and call this detective." He sent her the contact information. The invitation arrived by courier, heavy cream stationery with gold EMBOSSING. "Mr. Reynolds, Elijah Stone welcomes you to experience 3 transformative days at our spiritual enlightenment retreat for distinguished seekers. Your generous donation of $50,000 will secure your participation." Jacob transferred the money from an untraceable account. The final piece of his plan involved his most valuable skill, the ability to make people believe whatever he wanted them to believe. He stood before his bathroom mirror, practicing the expression of a lost soul, seeking guidance, vulnerable yet affluent, desperate yet discerning. The perfect mark for a cult leader targeting the wealthy. "Hello, I'm Jacob Reynolds," he rehearsed, extending his hand to his reflection. His eyes displayed the precise mixture of hope and hesitation that had convinced hundreds of victims to trust him over the years. This time, he would be the predator pretending to be prey. The night before departure, Jacob recorded a video. "Amelia, I don't know what happened to you in there, but I'm going to find out. And if they hurt you, I'll bring them all down." He paused, emotion breaking through his practiced facade. "I should have protected you better. I'm sorry." He encrypted the video and sent it to Vanessa with instructions to release it if he disappeared. Then, he packed his designer luggage, including the hidden recording devices, and prepared to enter the Lion's Den. The Eternal Light compound sprawled across 50 acres of pristine woodland, 2 hours outside the city. As Jacob's rented Bentley approached the ornate iron gates, he activated the recording device in his watch with a subtle twist of the dial. "Security checkpoint ahead," he murmured for the recording. Multiple cameras on the perimeter. Armed guards dressed as security counselors, visible arms, a smiling guard in white linen pants and a pale blue shirt approached. "Welcome, Mr. Reynolds. We've been expecting you." Jacob noted the guard's eyes alert, assessing, not matching the warmth of his smile. As the gates swung open, he glimpsed the compound's central buildings, a gleaming white temple-like structure surrounded by smaller residential buildings, all immaculately maintained with manicured gardens. "Quite impressive," Jacob remarked. as the guard directed him toward a parking area where several luxury vehicles were already stationed. Mr. Stone believes our external environment reflects our internal enlightenment, the guard replied mechanically. A young woman with a serene expression approached as Jacob exited his car. Welcome to Eternal Light, Mr. Reynolds. I'm Lily, your personal guide for your stay. Her smile never reached her eyes, which appeared slightly unfocused. May I help with your luggage? I've got it, thank you. Jacob maintained control of his bags containing the recording equipment. Lily led him along a stone path toward a modern building labeled Serenity House. Along the way, Jacob observed groups of white-robed members engaged in various activities tending gardens, practicing synchronized movement exercises, or sitting in meditation circles. All moved with the same deliberate slowness, their expressions placid. Our newest seekers stay in Serenity House during their initial enlightenment, Lily explained. You'll find everything designed for optimal spiritual receptivity. The room was minimalist but luxurious: white walls, natural wood furniture, large windows overlooking a reflecting pool. A basket of organic fruit and a carafe of water sat on a small table. Please change into these. Lily placed a folded set of white linen clothes on the bed. Your orientation begins in 30 minutes. Personal possessions often carry negative energies, so we encourage leaving them behind during spiritual activities. Jacob smiled, of course. Once alone, he quickly examined the room and found 2 cameras disguised as smoke detectors and a likely listening device in the bedside lamp. He unpacked, keeping his recording devices concealed, and changed into the provided clothing. At precisely the appointed time, Lily returned to escort him to a circular building called the Ascension Hall. Inside, about 20 other new arrivals in identical white clothing sat on cushions arranged in a circle. Jacob recognized several from their photos in business magazines: a tech CEO, a real estate mogul, a retired professional athlete. A tall woman with silver hair entered the room. Welcome, seekers. I am Serafina, first illuminated of eternal light. The room fell silent. You have been chosen because your souls called out for true purpose beyond material success. The next hour consisted of a carefully choreographed introduction to the cults philosophy, a blend of twisted Eastern spirituality, prosperity gospel, and New Age self-actualization. Detachment from material wealth is the first step toward spiritual abundance, Serafina intoned. Only by giving freely can we truly receive. Jacob noted how the message was tailored for wealthy targets, spiritual justification for separating them from their money. After the orientation, the new recruits were led to a dining hall for a purification meal of vegetable broth and unleavened bread. Jacob observed how the long periods of standing, the minimal food, and the constant bombardment of information created a subtle state of physical and mental fatigue. Classic cult indoctrination techniques, he thought, while maintaining his expression of rapt attention. As dinner concluded, an excited murmur passed through the room. A charismatic man in his 50s entered, wearing white clothing distinguished only by a simple pendant of crystal and gold. Elijah Stone, Lily whispered reverently. Stone moved through the room, stopping briefly to welcome each new arrival personally. When he reached Jacob, he clasped his hand in both of his own. Jacob Reynolds, Stone said, his piercing blue eyes seeming to look through him. Your spirit has been searching for us for a long time. Jacob felt an unexpected chill. He'd anticipated a charlatan, but Stone projected an unsettling magnetism that explained how he'd amassed such devoted followers. I'm honored to be here, Jacob replied, keeping his eyes respectfully downcast. We'll speak more tomorrow, Stone promised before moving on. Later, in his room, Jacob whispered into his recording devices. Day 1 complete. Multiple security cameras throughout the compound. Approximately 200 members visible. Stone is more dangerous than anticipated, charismatic and observant. No sign of coercion, but clear evidence of sleep manipulation, dietary restriction, and information control. He paused, thinking of the vacant expressions on the members' faces. No sign of Amelia's presence yet, but I've only seen a fraction of the compound. Tomorrow I'll try to access their records. He glanced at the hidden camera in his room. If you're watching me, Stone, you've met your match. Morning began with a 5 a.m. bell. Jacob joined other recruits for sunrise purification, an hour of silent meditation followed by cold showers. By breakfast, another sparse meal of plain oatmeal and herbal tea, he noticed the subtle disorientation on the faces of his fellow wealthy seekers. Sleep deprivation, caloric restriction, and sensory manipulation. Jacob muttered into his watch when momentarily alone in a bathroom stall. Classic methods to increase suggestibility. The morning's activities included gratitude circles where newcomers shared personal struggles. Jacob had prepared his story carefully, a successful tech entrepreneur haunted by emptiness despite material success. When his turn came, he allowed his voice to crack with practiced vulnerability. I built my company from nothing, sold it for millions, and still felt hollow. He paused, eyes downcast. My relationships fail because I can't connect. I'm hoping to find meaning here. His performance earned approving nods from the facilitators. During the lunch break, Jacob conversed with other recruits. cataloging their weaknesses for his investigation, while appearing to be just another lost soul. In the afternoon, Lily approached him. Mr. Stone has requested your presence for a private enlightenment session. She led him to a secluded building with a Japanese garden. Inside, the decor shifted from the compound's austere whiteness to rich woods and subtle luxury. Elijah Stone sat in a leather chair, reviewing documents. Jacob, Stone smiled warmly, setting aside his papers. Please, sit, up close. Stone was more imposing tanned skin, perfect teeth, eyes that never seemed to blink. He wore the same white linen as everyone else, yet somehow projected authority through his posture alone. Your energy is different from our other seekers, Stone began, studying Jacob. Most come here broken. You carry your wounds differently. Jacob felt a flicker of unease. Had he underplayed his vulnerability? My struggles are internal, he replied. I've become skilled at hiding them. Stone nodded slowly. A survival mechanism from childhood, perhaps? The accuracy of Stone's assessment was unnerving. Jacob realized Stone wasn't just a charismatic fraud, he was a skilled reader of people, just as Jacob was. My father was difficult, Jacob admitted, incorporating enough truth to be convincing. And you learned to become whatever he needed you to be to avoid his wrath, Stone said, leaning forward. That skills served you well in business. I imagine, becoming whatever investors needed to see. Jacob maintained his composure while inwardly recalibrating his assessment of his opponent. This would be more challenging than anticipated. Your insight is remarkable, he said. Stone smiled. Not insight. Recognition. We're not so different, you and I. The statement hung in the air like a challenge. Both of us understand how people work, Stone continued. Their needs, their weaknesses. The difference is what we choose to do with that understanding. And what do you choose? Jacob asked. I help people find purpose, Stone replied. What? About you, Jacob, what do you truly want? Peace, Jacob answered, the single word containing more truth than he'd intended. Stone nodded approvingly. I believe you're meant for important work here. Our community needs people with your perceptiveness. He stood, indicating the meeting was concluding. Join me tomorrow for the Benefactors Circle. It's where our most committed members discuss the future of our work. Outside, Jacob exhaled slowly. Stone was testing him, perhaps even suspecting his true purpose. He would need to be more careful. That evening, during the communal dinner, Jacob observed Stone moving among his followers. The cult leader touched shoulders, remembered names, listened attentively, all hallmarks of effective manipulation that Jacob recognized from his own confidence schemes. He also noticed a tall, muscular man who stayed within Stone's orbit without participating in conversations. The man's eyes constantly scanned the room, pausing occasionally on Jacob. Who's that? Jacob asked Lily, indicating the watchful figure. Roland, she answered, lowering her voice. He oversees security and spiritual compliance. Spiritual compliance, ensuring everyone maintains their commitment to the path. Lily explained vaguely. Some seekers experience doubt during transformation. Roland helps them through difficult transitions. Jacob translated silently. Roland was the enforcer who dealt with dissidents. After dinner came evening reflection, where Stone delivered a sermon about surrendering worldly attachments. Jacob recorded snippets when possible, noting how the message subtly emphasized donating assets to achieve spiritual freedom. Later, in his room, Jacob whispered into his devices. Stone is more sophisticated than expected, a skilled manipulator, who recognizes the same traits in others. He's accelerating my integration, which could be opportunity or trap. Security presence is significant. A man named Roland appears to handle enforcement. No sign of coercion yet, but clear psychological manipulation techniques in use. He paused, considering his next steps. Stone mentioned a benefactors circle tomorrow. May provide access to financial records or evidence of wrongdoing. Will attempt to locate information about Amelia. Jacob lay on his bed, replaying his conversation with Stone. The cult leader had seen through aspects of his persona with unsettling ease. For the first time, Jacob wondered if he might be outmatched, if the predator might have become the prey. Jacob's second day began with another pre-dawn awakening and group activity, this time purification, labor in the compound's extensive gardens. The physical work, after minimal sleep, further wore down the recruits' resistance. Jacob noted how the older members praised even the smallest accomplishments of newcomers' textbook love bombing. Your energy flows so naturally into the earth, an older woman told him as he planted seedlings. You have a gift. By Jacob had developed a strategy to investigate the compound more thoroughly. During a water break, he approached Lily with a carefully constructed request. I'd like to learn more about the community's history, he said. Are there archives or records I could explore? Understanding your journey would deepen my connection. Lily seemed pleased by his interest. The Hall of Remembrance documents our growth. I can take you there after lunch. The Hall of Remembrance proved to be a converted barn filled with photographs, newsletters, and testimonials chronicling the cult's 15-year evolution from a small meditation group to its current prosperity. Jacob scanned the displays methodically. searching for any mention of Amelia while appearing to be an interested recruit. This is remarkable, he told Lily, pointing to a photo of Stone breaking ground on the main temple. Such growth in just 15 years. Mr. Stone says that when purpose aligns with cosmic energy, abundance follows naturally, Lily recited. Jacob moved slowly through the timeline, noting how the cult's messaging had evolved from spiritual enlightenment to increasingly explicit emphasis on detachment from material wealth. The photographs of members showed the same progression. From diverse clothing and expressions to uniform white garments and identical serene smiles, in a section dedicated to ascended members. Jacob's heart stopped. Among the photographs of deceased cult members was Amelia, her once vibrant features transformed into the same vacant serenity he saw throughout the compound. The caption read, "Amelia Mercer, transcended through ultimate surrender." Jacob fought to maintain his composure. Feeling Lily's eyes on him, "These members found complete peace?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "They completed their earthly journey with perfect detachment," Lily answered. "It's our highest aspiration." Jacob noticed that all the ascended members were relatively young and appeared in photos taken at the compound. None showed signs of illness. "How many have transcended?" he asked casually. 17 have been blessed with complete ascension, Lily said. "Mr. Stone says they guide us from beyond." 17 suspicious deaths, Jacob thought grimly. He memorized the names listed beneath the photos for Vanessa to investigate. As they continued through the hall, Jacob spotted a young woman with dark hair, arranging new photographs. Something in her movements, a natural grace lacking the cult's artificial serenity, caught his attention. "Who's that?" he asked Lily. "Maya," Lily replied with a slight frown. "She manages our records. She's been with us for 3 years, but still struggles with full surrender." Jacob noted the subtle disapproval in Lily's tone. A member not fully assimilated might be a potential ally. Later that afternoon, Jacob found an opportunity to approach Maya alone in the hall. He pretended to be fascinated by a particular photograph while Lily spoke with another member. "These are beautifully arranged," he said quietly. "You've created a compelling narrative." Maya glanced up, surprised by the personal compliment rather than the usual spiritual platitudes. "Thank you. It's important to preserve the truth, even when it's complex." The emphasis on her last word caught Jacob's attention. Before he could respond, Lily returned, and Maya quickly resumed her serene expression. During the afternoon wisdom circle, Jacob observed how members were encouraged to confess doubts and vulnerabilities, which leaders then used to reinforce dependency. When one recruit expressed concern about liquidating his assets as recommended, the group gently but firmly suggested his reluctance indicated spiritual blockage. "Your attachment is the very obstacle to your enlightenment," Stone told the man. "Release what holds you back, and freedom follows." Jacob recognized the pattern from his research on cult manipulation, isolation, destabilization, dependency, and then financial exploitation. The same techniques he'd used in cons, but perverted to target the vulnerable rather than the greedy. That evening, he managed another covert recording. Confirmed Amelia is among 17 ascended euphemism for dead, all young, all died here. Maya, records keeper, shows signs of independent thinking possible in Stone's financial focus is becoming more explicit. "Tomorrow, I'll attend the benefactor's circle and attempt to access restricted areas." He paused, emotion finally breaking through his professional demeanor. "I saw her photo. What did they do to you?" "Your eyes looked wrong. I promise I'll find out what happened." Jacob lay awake, replaying memories of his sister, her laugh, her stubborn idealism, her trust in people that he'd always considered naive. That same trust had likely led her into Stone's web. Just before sleep claimed him, Jacob realized Stone's methods mirrored his own techniques as a conman, with one crucial difference. Jacob had always allowed his marks a choice, had targeted only those who sought unearned gains. Stone preyed on the psychologically vulnerable, those seeking meaning rather than money. The recognition strengthened his resolve. Whatever it took, he would bring Stone down, not just for Amelia, but for all the others who had ascended into convenient deaths. The benefactors' circle met in a glass-walled building overlooking the compound's lake. Jacob arrived to find 10 people seated around a polished table, the wealthiest and most committed donors. Stone sat at the head, with Roland standing silently behind him. "Jacob?" Stone smiled. "Join us. We were just discussing our expansion plans." Jacob took the empty seat, noting the deference shown to Stone by people who, in the outside world, were accustomed to giving orders rather than taking them. "As I was saying," Stone continued, "our enlightenment centers in Europe and Asia are exceeding growth projections. We've identified property for our Australian compound, but regulatory hurdles remain." What followed was less spiritual guidance and more corporate board meeting. Stone presented financial statements showing the organization's holdings, property, acquisitions, and revenue streams. Jacob noticed that while donations were meticulously documented, expenditures remained vague. listed under categories like spiritual development and purification resources. Our legal structure protects our mission, Stone explained, displaying a complex chart of shell companies and offshore accounts. The material world doesn't always understand spiritual imperatives. Jacob recognized the sophisticated money laundering operation disguised as religious enterprise. He subtly adjusted his watch to record as much as possible. The next phase requires significant capital investment, Stone continued. Each of you has demonstrated commitment to transcendence. Now we ask you to consider a more complete surrender. A silver-haired woman spoke up. Complete surrender. Transferring major assets into our Ascension Trust, Stone clarified. The ultimate detachment from material concerns. Jacob watched the others, nodding thoughtfully at what was essentially a request to sign over their fortunes. Stone was masterful, framing financial exploitation as spiritual advancement. Questions? Stone asked. Jacob raised his hand. Careful. To maintain his persona, the Ascension trustees is similar to estate planning. Stone's eyes lingered on Jacob. Much more profound. It's preparing for your spiritual future rather than just your legal one. And who administers the trust? Jacob pressed gently. I oversee it personally, Stone replied. With divine guidance? Of course. After the meeting, Stone asked Jacob to stay behind. Jacob tensed, wondering if he'd pushed too far. Your business background gives you unique perspective, Stone said. Once they were alone, most seekers don't understand organizational structure. Old habits, Jacob apologized. I still think in terms of operations and accountability. Stone studied him. That analytical mind is valuable, properly directed. I'm considering you for our financial purification team. Jacob recognized the opportunity. I'd be honored. Roland will show you our administrative center tomorrow, Stone said. But first, what did you make of our discussion today? The question was a test. Jacob chose his words carefully. I see a visionary operation with sophisticated infrastructure. The legal complexities protect the mission from those who might misunderstand it. Stone nodded approvingly. And the Ascension Trust. A profound concept, Jacob replied. The businessman in me has questions about implementation. The businessman in you is the very attachment you must overcome, Stone said, his tone hardening slightly. Complete surrender isn't achieved with partial commitment. Of course, Jacob conceded. I'm still learning. As Jacob left the meeting, Roland fell into step beside him, a silent, intimidating presence. Mr. Stone sees potential in you, Roland said, his voice surprisingly soft for his imposing size. Not everyone receives such attention. I'm grateful for his guidance, Jacob replied neutrally. Gratitude is a beginning, Roland said. Obedience is the path. The implied threat wasn't subtle. Jacob nodded respectfully and returned to his room, where he whispered into his recording devices. Stone operates a sophisticated financial structure disguising what appears to be personal enrichment and tax evasion. Multiple shell companies and offshore accounts. He's now soliciting major assets from wealthy members through an Ascension Trust he personally controls. He paused, considering his next steps. I'm being granted access to their administrative center tomorrow. Need to locate records of Amelia's death and evidence of financial crimes. Roland Stone's enforcers watching me closely. May need to accelerate timeline. Later that evening, during the communal dinner, Jacob observed Maya sitting alone. Seeing an opportunity, he approached with his tray. Mind if I join you? Maya looked up, momentarily surprised before her features settled into the practiced serenity expected of members. Please do. They ate in silence for a moment before Jacob spoke quietly. You've been here 3 years. Yes, Maya replied. I came seeking purpose after college. And have you found it? Jacob asked. Something flickered in Maya's eyes, a brief glimpse of the person beneath the cult programming. Some days are clearer than others. Jacob took a calculated risk. I saw you working in the Hall of Remembrance. Did you know Amelia? Mercer. Maya's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. Why do you ask about her? Her story interested me, Jacob said carefully. One of the ascended. Maya glanced around before responding, her voice barely audible. We don't usually discuss those who have transcended. Of course, Jacob backtracked. I apologize if I overstepped. Maya studied him with newfound intensity. No, it's just, Amelia was different, special. Jacob felt a surge of hope. In what way? Before Maya could answer, Roland appeared beside their table. Maya, your presence is requested for evening testimony preparation. Maya immediately stood, her expression, once again, a mask of serenity. Blessed guidance, she murmured, the standard response to any instruction. As she left, she gave Jacob a look he couldn't quite interpret, warning or curiosity. He wasn't sure. Roland remained, his presence looming over Jacob. Mr. Reynolds, spiritual advancement requires proper associations. Some members struggle with clarity more than others. The message was clear. Maya was considered problematic, and Jacob was being warned away from her. I appreciate the guidance, Jacob replied, meeting Roland's gaze steadily. As Roland walked away, Jacob considered the interaction. Maya had known Amelia and described her as different. If Maya was already questioning the cult, she might be his best chance at discovering what had happened to his sister and his most dangerous potential liability if she reported his questions to Stone. Tonight, he would need to decide whether to trust her, a decision that could determine whether he succeeded in bringing down Stone's empire or joined the ranks of the Ascended himself. Jacob spent the night strategizing. Maya clearly knew something about Amelia, but approaching her carried risks. Roland was watching them both. He needed information, but couldn't endanger his cover or her safety. The opportunity came unexpectedly the next morning. During reflection, time in the gardens, Jacob spotted Maya tending a small plot of herbs. Temporarily unwatched, he casually made his way toward her, pretending to admire the plantings. "These gardens are remarkable," he commented, loud enough for anyone watching to hear. Maya glanced up, then returned to her work. "Tending living things helps us connect to greater purpose." Jacob knelt beside her, ostensibly examining the plants. "Roland seemed concerned about our conversation yesterday." "Roland concerns himself with everyone's spiritual compliance," Maya replied carefully. "Including Amelia's?" Jacob asked, his voice barely audible. Maya's hands stilled. Without looking up, she whispered, "Meet me in the archives after evening meditation. Take the west hallway past the dining hall, third door. I'll leave it unlocked." Before Jacob could respond, she stood and walked away, reciting standard cult platitudes about plant energy for anyone who might be listening. The day passed slowly. Jacob attended his scheduled tour of the administrative center with Roland covertly recording evidence of the cult's financial operations while maintaining his facade of respectful interest. The center housed sophisticated computer systems and filing cabinets containing member records. Each member's spiritual journey is documented comprehensively, Roland explained, leading him through rooms filled with files. "Impressive," Jacob remarked, mentally mapping the layout. "Is this where transcendence experiences are recorded too?" Roland's expression remained impassive. "Ascensions are sacred? Those records are maintained separately." Jacob nodded, filing away this information. The deaths would be documented somewhere, possibly in Stone's private quarters. After evening meditation, Jacob waited until the compound quieted before making his way to the archives. The west hallway was dimly lit and deserted. He found the third door unlocked as promised. Inside, Maya waited among towering shelves of files and records. She looked different, alert, focused, without the dreamy expression cult members typically maintained. "We don't have much time," she said. "Why are you asking about Amelia?" Jacob made a split-second decision to trust her with a partial truth. "I knew her before she came here. Her death doesn't make sense to me." Maya studied him intently. "You're not really here for spiritual enlightenment, are you?" "Are you?" Jacob countered. A ghost of a smile crossed Maya's face. "Not anymore." She glanced at the door. "I was Amelia's roommate for 2 years. We became close as you can be in a place that discourages personal attachments." "What happened to her?" Jacob asked. Maya's expression darkened. "Officially, she achieved transcendence through surrender, their euphemism for suicide. But Amelia would never kill herself. She was ... What? Jacob pressed when Maya hesitated. "Investigating," Maya whispered. She believed Stone was dangerous, that the Ascended members hadn't all chosen their fates. She was collecting evidence. Jacob felt a surge of pride for his sister. What kind of evidence? Financial records, testimonies from members who'd been punished in the Purification Center. Details about previous deaths, Maya explained. She kept notes hidden in our room. After she died, I found some of them and continued her work. "Do you still have them?" Jacob asked urgently. Maya shook her head. "I hid what I could in the archives here, but it's too dangerous to keep everything together. Stone has eyes everywhere." "Why are you telling me this?" Jacob asked. "You're taking an enormous risk." "Because you remind me of her," Maya said simply. "The way you observe everything, how you ask questions that seem innocent but aren't." Amelia had that same quality. Jacob felt a tightness in his throat. "She was my sister." Maya's eyes widened. "Your sister?" She studied his face. "Yes, I see it now. The resemblance is subtle, but it's there." "I need to know what happened to her," Jacob said. Maya looked down. 2 days before she died, Amelia told me she'd found something big, financial transfers coinciding with member deaths. The next day, she was called for a private purification session with Stone. When she returned, she was ... different, docile. They had done something to her. "Drugs," Jacob suggested. "Maybe, or the sensory manipulation they use in advanced purification." The next morning, they found her by the lake. Maya's voice broke. "They said she left a note about achieving perfect attachment, but I never saw it. It wasn't her writing, her words." Jacob fought to maintain his composure. Where would records of these financial transfers be kept? Stone's private study, or the restricted section of the administrative center? Maya replied. "Both heavily secured." "And the other Ascended members? Similar patterns?" Maya nodded. Most had questioned teachings or threatened to leave. Several had family money that was donated to the organization after their deaths. Jacob took a risk and revealed his recording watch. "I'm gathering evidence to bring Stone down. Will you help me?" Maya stared at the device, then back at Jacob. "They killed your sister." If they suspect you, they'll kill you too. I know the risks, Jacob said, but I need insider help. After a long moment, Maya nodded. For Amelia, she tried to warn me about the purification infiltrates, where they break people who resist. I've avoided it so far by playing along, but my time is running out. Roland watches me constantly. What happens there? Jacob asked. Isolation, sensory manipulation, sometimes drugs, Maya explained. People come back changed. Compliant, empty. A sound in the hallway made them both freeze. Maya quickly moved to a shelf and pulled down a file, opening it as if showing Jacob something innocuous. The door opened, and Roland stood silhouetted in the doorway. Evening research. Maya. Mr. Reynolds expressed interest in our early teachings. Maya replied smoothly. I'm showing him the founder's original manuscripts. Roland's gaze shifted between them. It's past reflection hours. All members should be in their quarters. My fault entirely, Jacob said. I was too eager to learn. Roland's expression remained unreadable. Spiritual discipline requires following established rhythms. Both of you should return to your rooms. Immediately, they complied, walking silently down the hallway under Roland's watchful eye. At the junction where their paths would separate, Maya handed Jacob the file she'd been holding. Study this carefully, she said loudly enough for Roland to hear. The early teachings provide essential context. Jacob took the file, understanding there must be something important hidden within it. Thank you for your guidance. In his room, Jacob examined the file. Between pages of Stone's early writings, he found a small note in unfamiliar handwriting. Ease records hidden in hollow tree. By lake, north side. Red ribbon marker. His sister's final evidence cache. Jacob looked out his window toward the dark outline of the lake. Tomorrow you would need to find that tree on whatever secrets Amelia had died to protect. Jacob awoke to the sound of his door opening. Stood in the doorway with two other security members. Brother Jacob, Roland said, his voice eerily calm. Elijah Stone has requested your presence for a special purification session. Jacob's pulse quickened, but he maintained his facade. I'm honored, he replied, rising from his bed. Should I change first? That won't be necessary, Roland answered. Purification begins with surrender of expectations. The men escorted Jacob through the sleeping compound to a low concrete building he hadn't been shown during his tour. Unlike the aesthetic beauty of the other structures, this one was utilitarian and windowless. A heavy metal door opened to reveal a stark white hallway. Many struggle with their first purification, Roland said as they walked. Resistance only prolongs the process. They led Jacob to a small room containing only a metal chair bolted to the floor. The walls, ceiling, and floor were painted pure white, creating a disorienting lack of perspective. Please sit, Roland instructed. Jacob complied, mentally reviewing his options. The recording devices would capture whatever happened next, but escape seemed impossible with 3 guards. His only choice was to endure whatever purification entailed and maintain his cover. Elijah will join you shortly, Roland said, attaching restraints to Jacob's wrists and ankles. These are for your protection during the release process. After securing Jacob, the 3 men left. Alone in the featureless room, Jacob immediately felt the effects of sensory deprivation. With no visual reference points, his perception began to distort within minutes. Then a high-pitched hum started, just at the threshold of hearing, another known technique for breaking down resistance. Jacob focused on his breathing, using techniques he'd learned from maintaining composure during high-stakes cons. He needed to appear affected without actually surrendering his critical thinking. The door opened and Elijah Stone entered, wearing white robes more elaborate than his usual attire. He carried a small case. Jacob Stone smiled warmly. Thank you for your openness to this experience. I seek guidance, Jacob replied, playing his role despite his racing heart. Stone set the case on a small table that had been brought in. Conversations with Maya have raised concerns about your focus, so they had been watched. Jacob needed to protect Maya without revealing the depth of their exchange. She was helping me understand the historical context of your teachings, he said. Maya carries unresolved resistance, Stone replied, opening the case to reveal several vials and a syringe. Her influence could disrupt your journey. Jacob eyed the syringe. What's that for? A purification aid, Stone explained casually. It helps seekers release their attachments to old patterns of thinking, mind-altering drugs exactly as Maya had described. Jacob knew if he was drugged, his mission would likely fail. I was hoping to experience pure purification, Jacob said. Without aids? To fully feel the transformation. Stone studied him. The path of purification isn't chosen by the seeker, Jacob. Surrender is. He prepared the syringe, while continuing to speak. You've made remarkable progress, but I sense a core of resistance. Something you're holding back. He paused. Or perhaps a purpose you're not revealing. Jacob recognized the danger in Stone's probing. The cult leader suspected something. My only purpose is to find meaning, Jacob insisted. My old life left me empty. Stone approached with the syringe. Let's release those final barriers together. As the needle pierced his skin, Jacob felt a cold spread through his veins. The room began to blur around the edges. He fought to maintain his focus, remembering his training in resisting truth serums during his more elaborate cons. Many find they speak more freely during purification, Stone said, his voice seeming to come from multiple directions. Hidden thoughts rise to the surface. Jacob allowed his head to loll, playing into the expected effects while keeping part of his mind vigilant. Feeling strange, he slurred. Tell me why you really came to us, Jacob, Stone said softly. Emptiness, Jacob mumbled. Success without purpose. And what did you hope to find here? Stone pressed. Truth, Jacob answered, allowing genuine emotion to color his response. Connection. Stone circled the chair. Your background checks were immaculate. Too perfect, perhaps. Tell me about your company, Tech Fusion. Jacob had prepared this cover story meticulously. Even in his impaired state, he recited details about his fictional tech company, its products, and its acquisition. And your family, Stone continued. Any connections to our community? The direct question about family sent warning signals through Jacob's drugged mind. No family, he managed. All gone. Alone. Stone nodded slowly. Isolation often brings seekers to us, yet sometimes people come with ... other motivations. That questioning continued for what felt like hours as the drug pulled Jacob in and out of lucidity. Stone probed his past, his finances, his relationships, searching for inconsistencies in his cover story. Jacob maintained his fiction, allowing the drug to make him emotional and vulnerable while protecting his core secrets. Finally, Stone seemed satisfied. The first purification opens pathways. We'll continue tomorrow. After Stone left, Roland returned with his assistants. They released Jacob from the chair, but had to support him as they led him back to his room. The drug left him genuinely disoriented, his legs barely functional. Rest now, Roland instructed as they deposited him on his bed. Reflection begins at dawn. Alone again, Jacob fought the chemical fog in his brain to whisper into his recording devices. Drugged during interrogation, Stone suspicious, ... need to find Amelia's evidence soon, ... Maya, in danger. He struggled to maintain consciousness long enough to plan his next move. The lake with Amelia's hidden records was his priority, but he'd need to wait until the drug cleared his system. Stone would be watching him more closely now. Through the haze, one thought remained clear. The purification he'd experienced today was a fraction of what Amelia must have endured before her death. The realization strengthened his resolve despite his physically weakened state. I'll end this, he whispered before succumbing to drug-induced unconsciousness. Whatever it takes. Jacob awoke with a pounding headache and fractured memories of the purification session. Whatever drug Stone had used left him nauseated and disoriented. He checked his watch, 5:30 a.m., 30 minutes before the morning bell. Moving carefully, he tested his limbs and found them responsive despite their HEAVINESS. The morning's activities passed in a blur, as Jacob mechanically participated while planning his next move. Stone watched him during breakfast, seemingly pleased with his subdued state. Jacob played into it, keeping his eyes downcast and his responses minimal. The first purification often brings profound introspection, Stone announced to the group, resting a hand on Jacob's shoulder. Brother Jacob is experiencing the surrender of resistance? Jacob nodded weakly, the perfect picture of a broken initiate. Inside, his mind raced. He needed to find Amelia's hidden evidence, but the lake was visible from multiple buildings. Approaching it without a plausible reason would raise suspicions, especially after yesterday's interrogation. The opportunity came during afternoon reflection time, when members were encouraged to find peaceful spots throughout the grounds for meditation. Jacob chose a location that offered a path to the north side of the lake. Moving slowly and maintaining the appearance of drug-induced docility. As he walked, he kept his gaze unfocused while scanning for surveillance. 2 guards patrolled the perimeter, but their routes were predictable. Between their passes, Jacob would have approximately 4 minutes to search for the tree with Amelia's red marker at the lake's edge. Jacob settled into a meditation pose, waiting for the right moment. When both guards turned away on their routes, he moved quickly into the tree line, scanning for anything red among the foliage. 3 minutes of searching revealed nothing. Just as he was about to return to his meditation spot before the guards returned, a flutter of faded crimson caught his eye, a weather-worn ribbon tied around a branch of an ancient oak, partially concealed by newer growth. Jacob located a hollow in the trunk, reached inside, and felt a waterproof pouch. He extracted it quickly, tucked it into his white uniform, and returned to his meditation spot just as a guard rounded the corner. Finding peace, Brother Jacob, the guard asked. Beginning to, Jacob replied softly. The purification opened something in me. The guard nodded approvingly and continued his patrol. Jacob waited another 20 minutes before returning to the compound, the pouch heavy against his skin. Back in his room during the brief rest period before dinner, Jacob examined Amelia's hidden evidence. The waterproof packet contained a small notebook, several USB drives, and photographs of documents. The notebook was filled with Amelia's handwriting, detailed observations about cult operations, finances, and the ascended members. Jacob's throat tightened as he read his sister's words, recognizing her methodical intelligence in the carefully documented patterns. Stone's ascensions follow a pattern, she had written. Members who question financial practices or attempt to leave are subjected to extended purification. Within 2 to 3 weeks, they choose transcendence. Death certificates list suicide or natural causes, but purification drugs could induce either. She had tracked financial transfers showing large donations coinciding with each death donation supposedly made by the deceased member but executed after their purification sessions began, when they would have been incapable of managing financial affairs. The Cayman account grows with each ascension, Amelia had noted. Stone is liquidating members' assets through the Transcendence Trust and transferring funds offshore. Most disturbing were her final entries. Stone knows I've been asking questions. Roland follows me everywhere now. Maya is my only ally, but I've told her little to protect her. I've copied key financial records showing the money trail from deceased members to Stone's personal accounts. If anything happens to me, this evidence must reach authorities. The last entry, dated the day before her death, was chilling in its brevity. Private purification scheduled tomorrow. Stone insists it will clear my doubts. If I don't return, I did not choose transcendence. Fight for the others. Jacob carefully photographed each page with his watch, then examined the USB drives. Without a computer, he couldn't access their contents, but Amelia's notes suggested they contained financial records and possibly video evidence from the Purification Center. He needed to get this evidence out of the compound immediately. His weekly check-in with Vanessa was scheduled for tomorrow, but after yesterday's purification session, he might not have that long before Stone decided he was a threat. As Jacob hid the evidence back in his clothing, his door opened without warning. Roland stood in the doorway. "Stone requests your presence," he announced. "Bring nothing with you." Jacob had no choice but to follow, the evidence packet concealed against his lower back. Roland led him not to the Purification Center, but to Stone's private study, an opulent room with wood-paneled walls and leather-bound books that contrasted sharply with the minimalist aesthetic of the rest of the compound. Stone sat behind an ornate desk, reviewing documents. He looked up as Jacob entered, dismissing Roland with a gesture. "Your purification yesterday revealed interesting patterns," Stone said once they were alone. "Your responses under the serum were consistent with your story, yet something about your affect concerns me." Jacob maintained his drugged demeanor. "The experience was, intense. I'm still processing." "Indeed," Stone replied, "which is why I've been reviewing your file more carefully." He held up a folder. Jacob Reynolds, tech entrepreneur, impeccable background, almost too perfect. Jacob felt sweat forming on his back, dangerously close to the hidden evidence. "I don't understand. Few people truly erase their digital footprints so completely," Stone continued. "Even wealthy donors leave traces, embarrassing photos, old social media, academic records, yet you exist only in the most official channels, as if your identity were, constructed." Stone was closing in on his cover. Jacob needed to redirect. "Before my success, I was nobody," he said. "After it, I paid experts to clean up my online presence. Privacy became an obsession after the media attention from the acquisition." Stone nodded slowly. "A reasonable explanation. Yet combined with your interest in our ascended members and your conversations with Maya, it creates a concerning pattern." "Maya was helping me understand the community's history," Jacob insisted. "Was she?" Stone asked mildly. "Or was she sharing her doubts?" "Maya has struggled with surrender, much like another member once did." "Amelia Mercer?" The name hung in the air between them. Jacob forced himself to maintain a neutral expression despite the pounding of his heart. "I don't know that name," he lied. Stone's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course not. How could you? Yet during your purification, you mentioned feeling alone, having no family." "All gone," you said. "The serum usually brings forth truth, yet our background check shows no record of your family's deaths." Jacob had been careless during the drugged interrogation. He scrambled for a plausible explanation. "Not literally dead, dead to me. They disowned me when I dropped out of college to start my company. I haven't spoken to them in years." Stone studied him for a long moment. "Tomorrow, you'll undergo advanced purification, a deeper process that will help resolve these inconsistencies in your journey." Jacob recognized the threat behind the spiritual language. Tomorrow they would break him completely or kill him if they discovered his true identity. "I'm grateful for your guidance," he managed to say. Stone dismissed him with a wave. Outside the study, Roland waited to escort him back to his room. "Rest well," Roland said as he closed Jacob's door. "Tomorrow's purification is quite transformative." "Alone again?" Jacob whispered urgently into his recording devices. "Stone suspects my cover. Amelia left evidence of financial crimes and suspicious deaths. Planning escape tonight. If I don't make contact within 24 hours, send authorities to the compound." He had until dawn to escape with the evidence and his life. After seeing what happened to Amelia, failure wasn't an option. Jacob waited until after midnight, when the compound fell silent. Escape wouldn't be simple. The perimeter was fenced and monitored, and he'd need to take Amelia's evidence while avoiding security patrols. Worse, he couldn't leave without warning Maya. Stone would surely punish her once Jacob's true purpose was discovered. As he prepared to slip out, a soft knock at his door froze him in place. He hid the evidence packet and cautiously opened the door a crack. Maya stood in the hallway, her expression tense. "May I come in?" she whispered. "It's important." Jacob hesitated, then let her enter, closing the door quietly behind her. "Roland questioned me for hours about our conversations," she said without preamble. "Stone is convinced you're not who you claim to be. They're planning something more than purification for you tomorrow." "I need to leave tonight," Jacob told her. "You should come too. It's not safe for you here." Maya's eyes widened. "Leave? It's not that simple. The gates are locked, and security monitors the perimeter constantly." "I'll find a way," Jacob insisted. "I can't stay for tomorrow's advanced purification." Maya nodded grimly. "After what happened to Amelia, I don't blame you." She hesitated. "Did you find her records by the lake?" "Yes." Jacob revealed the hidden packet. She documented every fraud, suspicious deaths, the offshore accounts. She was building a case against Stone. "Just like I thought," Maya said softly. "She told me almost nothing to protect me, but I knew she was investigating." Jacob studied Maya's face, seeing genuine grief. "You cared about her." "She was my friend," Maya replied simply. "The only real connection I had here. After she died, I started noticing the patterns she must have seen. The way questioning members disappeared into purification and came back changed. Or didn't come back at all. Then why stay?" Jacob asked. Maya looked away. "Where would I go? My family disowned me when I joined. I gave all my savings to the center, and I still believed some of it. The community, the purpose, not Stone's manipulation, but the idea of something meaningful beyond consumer culture." Her vulnerability struck Jacob unexpectedly. Throughout his career as a conman, he'd maintained emotional distance from his marks. Yet here was someone who had been genuinely victimized by Stone's predatory spirituality. Someone who had lost the same things his sister had lost. "There's still good out there," Jacob said gently, "without the exploitation." Maya met his gaze. "Isari, your sister died trying to expose the truth. You're risking your life for justice. Meanwhile, Stone lives in luxury by twisting people's search for meaning. Sometimes it seems like the manipulators always win." Her words hit uncomfortably, close to Jacob's own past. Hadn't he also exploited people's weaknesses, albeit targeting the greedy rather than the spiritually seeking? "Not always," Jacob insisted, as much to himself as to her. "We have Amelia's evidence. Stone will face consequences." Maya didn't look convinced. "The world is full of charismatic predators who never face justice. Stone has powerful allies, expensive lawyers. Even with evidence, the system protects people like him." Jacob recognized the hopelessness in her voice, the same despair that had driven him to cons rather than legitimate paths after watching white-collar criminals escape consequences while his father went to prison for minor offenses. "This time, will be different," he promised. "But first, we need to get out of here. Tonight." Maya took a deep breath. "I know a way. There's a delivery entrance on the east side where the security cameras have a blind spot. The fence there is older, with a section we could cut through." "We?" Jacob asked. "I'm coming with you," Maya said firmly, "not just for myself. There are others, newer members who haven't been fully indoctrinated. They deserve warning before they give everything to Stone." Jacob considered the complications of escaping with others. "That increases the risk significantly." "These people trust me," Maya argued. "Some are barely adults, thinking they've found family here. I can't leave them to ascend when they inevitably question Stone." Her moral clarity reminded Jacob painfully of Amelia. His sister had died trying to save others, not just expose Stone. Could he do any less? "How many?" he asked reluctantly. For Maya replied, "They're already questioning but hiding it. 2 sisters who joined together, a college student whose parents died, and an older woman who's realized Stone is targeting her retirement funds." Jacob weighed the risks against his conscience. The con artist in him argued for with the evidence, bring authorities back for the others. But Amelia's voice in his memory demanded more. "We'll need a distraction," he said finally, "something to draw security away from the east fence." Maya's relief was visible. "Thank you. I can trigger the fire alarm in the west building. Security will follow protocol, giving us about 10 minutes." They spent the next hour planning, timing the security patrols, and mapping their escape route. Jacob shared his recordings and evidence with Maya, ensuring she understood the full scope of Stone's crimes. As they finalized details, Maya asked the question Jacob had been avoiding. "Why did you become a conman? Your sister was so principled, so determined to help others." Jacob fell silent, the question hitting a nerve. "We had different responses to the same injustice," he finally said. "Our father went to prison for stealing groceries during a desperate time, while the banker who foreclosed on our house after deliberately misleading him about the mortgage faced no consequences. Amelia believed in fixing the system. I decided to punish the privileged who abused it." "And now?" Maya asked. Now I'm trying to be more like her, Jacob admitted. She was always the better person. She spoke about her brother sometimes, Maya said quietly. She worried about you, but she also admired your cleverness, your resilience. Jacob felt an unexpected ache in his chest. I never deserved her loyalty. Maybe this is your chance too. Earn it, Maya suggested. By finishing what she started, the moment of connection was interrupted by footsteps in the hallway. They froze, listening as the steps paused outside Jacob's door, then continued past. It's time, Jacob whispered. Get your people ready. Meet at the delivery entrance in 30 minutes. Maya nodded and slipped out, leaving Jacob alone with his thoughts. For years, he'd justified his cons as targeting only the deserving, the greedy and corrupt. Yet here he was, preparing to risk everything to save people who had simply been seeking meaning and connection. Perhaps this was his true redemption, not just avenging Amelia, but becoming the person she had always believed he could be. The compound at night was transformed, shadows lengthening across manicured lawns, the white buildings ghostly in the moonlight. Jacob moved silently toward the meeting point, avoiding the security cameras Maya had mapped for him. He carried only Amelia's evidence and his recording devices, leaving behind the trappings of his wealthy persona. As he passed the administrative center, he noticed light spilling from a basement window. Curiosity and instinct made him pause. According to the compound map Maya had drawn, this section shouldn't exist. The administrative building officially had no basement. A hidden facility merited investigation. Jacob checked his watch. 15 minutes until the rendezvous with Maya and the others. Enough time for a quick reconnaissance. He approached cautiously, crouching below the window. Inside he glimpsed rows of filing cabinets and computer servers, far more sophisticated equipment than he'd seen in the administrative tours. More importantly, he spotted Roland directing 2 assistants who were shredding documents. Stone wants everything transferred offshore by morning, Roland was saying. Nothing stays on U.S. soil after tomorrow. They were covering their tracks, destroying evidence. Jacob needed to document whatever he could before it disappeared. He activated his watch camera and angled it toward the window, recording Roland and the destruction process. The basement door opened, and Stone entered carrying a laptop. Is the purification center prepared for tomorrow? Yes, Roland confirmed. Special protocol as you requested. No records, no witnesses. Stone nodded. Our friend Mr. Reynolds has proven more troublesome than anticipated. After tomorrow's procedure, prepare the standard announcement about another transcendence. Jacob's blood ran cold. They weren't planning mere brainwashing. They intended to kill him and disguise it as suicide, just as they had with Amelia. He continued, recording as Stone opened the laptop. The offshore transfers are processing, Stone reported. Member assets from the Transcendence Trust are being routed through the shell companies now. Once complete, we'll have no financial footprint in U.S. jurisdiction. And the facility in Belize? Roland asked. Ready for our relocation? Stone replied. The core members have been prepared for the sacred journey. The others will receive their ascension invitations once we're established. Mass suicide. Jacob realized with horror that Stone was planning to eliminate witnesses once he'd secured their assets. The relocation would be a death sentence for devoted followers. What about the dissenters? Roland asked. Maya and her little group of doubters. Stone smiled coldly. They'll have special roles in tomorrow's purification demonstration. Breaking one resistant member before others is remarkably effective at ensuring compliance. Jacob had heard enough. He backed away from the window, processing the implications. The situation was more urgent than he'd realized, not just his life and Amelia's justice at stake, but potentially dozens of followers marked for death in Stone's relocation plan. He hurried toward the rendezvous point, mind racing. The evidence he now possessed went beyond financial fraud to premeditated murder. They needed to escape tonight and alert authorities immediately. At the delivery entrance, Maya waited with 4 nervous-looking members, the 2 sisters in their early 20s, the college-aged young man, and the older woman. All wore the standard white clothing and carried small bags. Did anyone see you? Jacob whispered. Maya shook her head. We timed it between patrols. Everyone, this is Jacob. He's going to help us get out. The older woman eyed him suspiciously. Why should we trust him? Because Stone plans to kill us all, Jacob said bluntly. I just overheard him discussing plans to relocate the core members to Belize and arrange ascensions for the rest. The young man paled. Ascensions means suicides. Exactly, Jacob confirmed. And he specifically mentioned using your group in tomorrow's purification demonstration. We need to leave now. One of the sisters clutched her sibling's hand. I knew something was wrong when they separated us for individual purification sessions. Let's go, Maya urged. I'll trigger the fire alarm in 2 minutes. When you hear it, run for the fence line. Jacob has wire cutters. As Maya slipped away toward the west building, Jacob led the others to the shadows near the east fence. He quickly explained what he'd learned about Stone's financial crimes and the suspicious deaths. Amelia, my sister, died trying to expose him, Jacob told them. She left evidence that will help authorities shut this place down, but we have to get it out safely. The older woman studied him. You're not really a tech millionaire, are you? No, Jacob admitted. I came here to find out what happened to my sister. Before she could respond, the fire alarm blared across the compound. Lights came on in several buildings, and security personnel began moving toward the west side. Now, Jacob commanded, leading the group to the fence. He quickly cut through the chain links, creating an opening just large enough to slip through. Hurry! The sisters went first, then the young man and the older woman. Jacob held the fence, anxiously watching for Maya's return. Precious seconds ticked by. Where is she? One sister whispered frantically. Something's wrong, Jacob realized. Maya should have reached them by now. Get to the road and follow it. East there's a gas station 3 miles down. Call this number. He handed them a paper with Vanessa's contact information. Tell her Jacob sent you and where to find you. You're not coming? The young man asked. Not without Maya, Jacob replied. She risked everything to help you. I won't leave her behind. The older woman grabbed his arm. That's suicide. Security will be everywhere once they realize the alarm is a distraction. Go, Jacob insisted. If I'm not there in an hour, tell Vanessa to send the police with the evidence you're carrying. After a moment's hesitation, they slipped through the fence and disappeared into the darkness. Jacob turned back toward the compound, moving against the flow of security personnel, still responding to the alarm. He reached the west building and found the alarm pole station, but no sign of Maya. Checking nearby rooms revealed nothing. A sick realization formed Maya had been caught. Jacob made a split-second decision. Instead of escaping with the others, he would find Maya and get them both out. He couldn't abandon her to Stone's purification, not after she had helped him and risked everything to save the others. Moving silently through the shadows, Jacob headed toward the one place they would likely take her for immediate interrogation, Stone's private study. If she wasn't there, the purification center would be next. As he approached the main building, Jacob spotted Roland escorting a struggling Maya toward Stone's quarters. Her face was bruised, her white clothing torn at the shoulder. Jacob pressed himself against a wall, mind racing. Direct confrontation with Roland would fail. The man was twice his size and undoubtedly armed. He needed a distraction bigger than a fire alarm. His gaze fell on the fuel tank for the compound's backup generator. A dangerous plan formed in his mind, risky, potentially destructive, but possibly their only chance. Sorry, Amelia, he whispered. Sometimes we have to fight fire with fire. Jacob sprinted to the maintenance shed, searching for something to create a controlled explosion at the generator. He found a toolbox containing electrical tape, wire cutters, and fortunately road flares for emergencies. It wasn't ideal, but it would serve his purpose, working quickly. He rigged a flare to ignite near the generator's fuel line, not close enough to cause a catastrophic explosion, but sufficient to create a dramatic fire that would draw all security personnel. He set the fuse for 3 minutes, then ran toward Stone's quarters. The building was eerily quiet when Jacob slipped inside. He moved silently down the hallway, hearing muffled voices from Stone's study. Pressing against the wall beside the partially open door, he listened. The others escaped because of you. Stone's voice was cold with controlled rage. After everything I've done for you, Maya, after saving you from your meaningless existence, you saved no one. Maya's voice was strained but defiant. You exploit people's search for meaning to steal their money and their autonomy. Amelia figured it out. That's why you killed her. A sharp sound, flesh striking flesh, made Jacob flinch. Amelia chose transcendence, Stone replied, as did others who couldn't embrace our vision. Their ascensions funded our greater purpose. You mean your offshore accounts? Maya challenged. Your luxury compound in Belize. Another blow. Where is Reynolds? Stone demanded. Gone, Maya said. With all the evidence, financial records, death certificates, your purification videos. It's over, Elijah. Jacob heard Roland's distinctive voice. The perimeter breach was on the east fence. Security is searching the surrounding area now. Find him, Stone ordered. Whatever it takes, and prepare Maya for special purification. I want her compliance. Absolute. Before the explosion cut him off, a concussive boom, followed by alarms blaring throughout the compound. Jacob's distraction had worked. The generator, Roland shouted. It could reach the fuel storage. Secure it, Stone commanded. Now. Footsteps thundered past the study door as Roland rushed out. Jacob flattened himself against the wall, waiting until Roland had passed before making his move. He burst into the study to find Stone standing over Maya, who was handcuffed to a chair. The cult leader spun around, momentarily shocked by Jacob's appearance. Reynolds? Stone recovered quickly, reaching for a drawer. Jacob launched himself across the room, tackling Stone before he could retrieve what was likely a weapon. They crashed to the floor, Stone displaying surprising strength for his age. You're too late, Stone hissed as they struggled. Even if you escape, I have congressmen, judges, celebrities in my congregation. Your evidence will disappear, your credibility destroyed. Jacob landed a solid punch that snapped Stone's head back. That's the difference between us, he growled. I don't need to be believed, I just need the truth exposed. He grabbed a letter opener from the desk and used it to break Maya's handcuffs. She staggered to her feet, blood trickling from her split lip. "We need to go," Jacob urged. "Now." As they turned to leave, Stone pulled himself up using the desk. "Guards," he shouted toward the hallway. Jacob made a split-second decision. He lunged forward, striking Stone with enough force to knock him unconscious. The cult leader crumpled to the floor. "Was that necessary?" Maya asked. Wide-eyed. "Yes," Jacob replied grimly. "We need time to escape, and he's too dangerous conscious." They ran from the study into chaos. The compound was in full emergency, mode alarms blaring. Members evacuating buildings, security personnel directing the response to the generator fire that now sent flames and black smoke into the night sky. "This way," Maya pulled Jacob toward a side exit. "The confusion will help cover our escape." They slipped outside and skirted the buildings, using the emergency as cover. Security was focused on containing the fire and maintaining order among the frightened members gathered on the main lawn. No one noticed two white-clothed figures disappearing into the darkness. "We need to reach the fence," Jacob said, guiding Maya toward the eastern perimeter where he'd helped the others escape. "Wait." Maya stopped suddenly. "The record room. We should get the member files. Names. Contact information for families. Evidence of who's been targeted." Jacob hesitated. "It's too risky. We already have Amelia's evidence." "These are people's lives," Maya insisted. "Once Stone recovers, he'll destroy everything and move his operation. We need to identify everyone at risk." Jacob recognized the same determination that had driven Amelia to continue investigating despite the danger. "Which building?" "Archives. East wing? Basement level?" "I have access." They changed direction, moving cautiously toward the administrative complex. Most personnel had evacuated, making it easier to slip inside unnoticed. Maya led them down a stairwell to a locked door, quickly entering a code. Inside, filing cabinets lined the walls, containing detailed records on every member. Maya moved efficiently, selecting key files and copying data from a computer onto a flash drive. "Member profiles, contact information, financial contributions," she explained. "Everything Stone would need to cover up once he "Hurry," Jacob urged, watching the door nervously. "Security will start checking buildings soon." Maya finished downloading the files and grabbed a final folder labeled Transcendence Protocols before nodding. "Done." They retraced their steps, emerging into the night just as security began establishing a perimeter around the compound. The fire was under control, but the confusion provided cover as they made their way to the damaged section of fence. "Almost there," Jacob whispered as they approached the fence line. A voice behind them shattered their hope. "That's far enough." They turned to find Roland standing 10 feet away, a security pistol aimed at them. His expression was coldly professional. "Mr. Stone was quite clear about what happens to those who betray eternal light," Roland said. "Drop the files, Maya." Maya clutched the documents tighter. "These people deserve to know the truth." "Roland. About the deaths? The financial fraud, all of it?" "The truth." Roland's laugh was hollow. "The truth is that people are weak, desperate for meaning. Stone gives them purpose, structure. What do you offer? Disillusionment? Return to their empty lives. Freedom to choose," Jacob countered. "Not manipulation and death when they question too much." Roland's eyes narrowed. "You understand nothing. I found purpose here after years of meaningless violence. As a military contractor, Stone harnessed my skills for something greater." "For murder?" Jacob challenged. "For silencing those who discovered his fraud, like my sister Amelia?" Recognition flickered in Roland's eyes. "Mercer? I knew you seemed familiar." His grip on the gun tightened. "Your sister chose her path. She chose to expose Stone," Jacob corrected, "and you helped kill her for it." Something shifted in Roland's expression. Doubt, perhaps, or buried conscience. Maya sensed the opening. "You know what happens in the Purification Center, Roland," she said quietly. "You know those deaths weren't willing ascensions. How many more will Stone sacrifice to protect himself?" Roland's gun wavered slightly. "I follow orders. Always have." "And what are your orders now?" Jacob asked. "Kill us. Add 2 more ascensions to your conscience." "How many before it's too many?" For a long moment, Roland stood frozen in indecision, gun still pointed at them. Then, slowly, he lowered the weapon. "Go," he said finally. "I didn't see you. Come with us," Maya urged. "Testify about what happened here." Roland shook his head. "My crimes aren't something testimony can erase." But this he stepped aside, clearing their path to freedom. "Maybe this balances the scales a little." Jacob nodded, understanding the man's conflicted honor. "Thank you." They slipped through the fence and ran into the darkness, not looking back. Behind them, alarms still sounded across the compound as Stone's carefully constructed empire began its collapse. "Do you think Roland will be okay?" Maya asked as they ran. "I think he made his choice," Jacob replied, "just like we made ours." Their path stretched ahead, 3 miles to the gas station where the others waited. Then onward to justice, to exposing the truth, to honoring Amelia's sacrifice. The hardest part of their journey was over, but the most important work was just beginning. Dawn. broke as Jacob and Maya reached the gas station where the others waited. Exhausted and disheveled, they found the small group huddled behind the building, away from curious eyes. "You made it." The older woman who had introduced herself as Patricia embraced Maya. "We were about to call your journalist contact." "We need to do that now," Jacob said, pulling out his phone to call Vanessa and the police. "Stone knows his operation is compromised. He'll be destroying evidence and possibly accelerating his plans for the remaining members." While Jacob made the calls, Maya shared what they'd learned about Stone's relocation plan and the intended ascension. The sisters clung to each other, while the young man Daniel paced anxiously. "What about the others still inside?" he asked. "People who trusted us, who might not even know what's happening. That's why we took these." Maya held up the files. "And flash drive, member information, family contacts. Once the authorities move in, these will help identify everyone at risk." Jacob returned from his calls. "Vanessa is meeting us at a hotel 20 miles from here. She's bringing a legal team and will coordinate with FBI agents specializing in cult organizations and financial crimes." FBI. Patricia looked alarmed. "I just wanted to get my retirement funds back and leave this behind me." "It's beyond that now," Jacob explained gently. "Stone is planning mass ascensions. That's premeditated murder. The evidence we have: financial records, death certificates, purification protocols. It's enough for federal charges." They traveled to the hotel in a taxi, maintaining silence about their ordeal. In a conference room, Vanessa waited with 2 attorneys and a federal agent who introduced himself as Special Agent Harris. "We've been building a case against Stone for months," Harris explained after preliminary introductions. "But infiltrating the organization proved impossible. Their security screening is too thorough, not thorough enough." Vanessa nodded toward Jacob. He got in. Jacob laid out Amelia's evidence packet, along with Maya's files on the table. "Everything you need is here. Financial fraud, suspicious deaths disguised as suicides, recordings of Stone discussing plans to eliminate witnesses." The agent reviewed the materials with growing interest. "This is extraordinary work. Your sister began this investigation." Jacob nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "Amelia documented everything before they killed her. She was methodical, fearless, and you finished it," Maya said quietly. As the legal team organized the evidence, the former cult members gave statements about their experiences: the manipulation techniques, the financial coercion, the isolation from family and friends. Each testimony added to the case against Stone. "What happens now?" Jacob asked Agent Harris after several hours of debriefing. "We move quickly," Harris replied. "Based on your information about Stone's relocation plans, we're coordinating with local law enforcement for a raid within the next 24 hours. We'll need you to help identify key areas of the compound and security protocols." The reality of returning to the compound, even with federal agents, sent a chill through Jacob. "Stone has powerful connections. He mentioned congressmen, judges, which is why we're handling this at the highest level," Harris assured him. "No local interference, no tipping our hand." As the others continued working with the legal team, Maya pulled Jacob aside. "There's something I haven't told the others," she whispered. "Something I found in the Transcendence Protocols file." She opened a folder and pointed to a list of names. "These are members scheduled for Ascension guidance in the next week. 17 people, Jacob. Those who've questioned Stone or tried to reduce their financial contributions." Jacob studied the list grimly. "They're accelerating their timeline." "There's more." Maya turned the page to reveal medical protocols. The purification drugs aren't just for compliance. In high doses, they cause symptoms identical to heart failure or stroke. The ascensions aren't suicides or natural deaths, they're carefully disguised murders. Jacob felt a cold rage building. Stone personally administered Amelia's final purification. "I'm sorry." Maya touched his arm gently. "She must have discovered this protocol. It's why they moved against her so quickly." Jacob closed the file, his resolve hardening. "Agent Harris needs to see this immediately. It changes the timeline. Can't wait 24 hours. They brought the protocols to Harris, who reviewed them with growing alarm. "This is beyond cult activity. This is systematic elimination of witnesses." He immediately placed calls to his superiors, expediting the operation. While the raid was being organized, Jacob found himself sitting alone, the emotional weight of the past days finally catching up to him. Maya joined him, offering a cup of coffee. "What will you do after this?" she asked. "When it's over?" Jacob considered the question. His life as a conman seemed distant now, belonging to a different person. "I don't know. I can't go back to what I was doing before, because of Amelia. Because of all of it," Jacob admitted. "Seeing what Stone did, twisting people's search for meaning into exploitation, it changes your perspective." Maya nodded. "I joined looking for community, purpose. So did most members. The exploitation came so gradually, we didn't see it happening. That's what makes people like Stone so dangerous," Jacob said. "They target real needs, genuine vulnerabilities. Not unlike what you did as a conman," Maya observed without judgment. Jacob couldn't deny the parallel. The difference is, I told myself I only targeted the greedy and corrupt. Stone preyed on people's best instincts, their desire for meaning, connection, spiritual growth. And now I understand what Amelia always knew, Jacob said quietly. The system needs fixing, not exploiting. Predators like Stone need to be stopped, not imitated. Maya smiled slightly. Sounds like you've found some purpose of your own. Maybe I have, Jacob realized, the thought both surprising and comforting. Their conversation was interrupted by Agent Harris. We're moving now. Stone made contact with a private airfield 30 miles from the compound. He's planning to fly out tonight with Corps members. And the others? Maya asked urgently. Still at the compound. According to our surveillance, we're coordinating simultaneous raids on both locations. Harris turned to Jacob. We need you to help identify Stone and key lieutenants. Will you come? Jacob didn't hesitate. Yes, me too. Maya stood. I know every building, every security protocol. As they prepared to depart, Jacob felt a strange calm descend. For years, he'd operated in moral gray areas, justifying his cons as a form of vigilante justice against the privileged. Now he was helping deliver actual justice, legal, transparent, and final. For Amelia, for Maya, for all the others exploited by Stone's twisted spirituality. It was time to finish what his sister had started. The raid was set for midnight. FBI teams would simultaneously secure the compound and intercept Stone at the private airfield. Jacob and Maya rode in an unmarked vehicle with Agent Harris, approaching the compound from the south opposite from their escape route. Stone will have increased security after your escape, Harris warned as they neared the perimeter. We're monitoring radio communications, but they may have switched to alternative channels. Jacob studied the compound through night vision binoculars. The usually serene grounds now buzzed with activity. Security, personnel patrolling with flashlights, vehicles being loaded. They're evacuating, he observed, moving faster than we anticipated. Harris immediately radioed the tactical teams. Accelerate timeline. Targets are mobile. As FBI teams moved into position, Jacob spotted a familiar figure directing the evacuation. Roland, Stone's enforcer, who had let them escape. Something felt wrong. Stone isn't there, Jacob realized. Suddenly, he would be overseeing this personally if he were still on site. The airfield team is in position, Harris confirmed after checking communications. No sign of Stone yet. Maya pointed toward the administrative building. The lights are on in the records room. They're destroying evidence. Harris made a decision. We move now. All teams, execute. The perimeter erupted with activity as FBI agents breached the compound from multiple points. Tactical teams secured buildings, while agents intercepted confused cult members being loaded onto buses. Jacob, Maya, and Harris approached the main building behind a tactical unit. Inside, they found staff frantically shredding documents and wiping computers. Federal agents, Harris announced. Step away from the equipment. The staff froze, then complied, raising their hands. Jacob scanned their faces but saw neither Stone nor Roland. They proceeded deeper into the building, reaching Stone's private study. The door was locked. He could have a panic room, Maya suggested. Hidden exits. The tactical team breached the door, revealing an empty office with open drawers and a wall safe left ajar. Stone had fled, taking what he considered most valuable. Harris received an update through his earpiece. Stone's not at the airfield either. The plane was scheduled but hasn't arrived. Jacob's instincts flared. It's a diversion. He's neither here nor at the airfield. Then where? Harris demanded. Maya's eyes widened with realization. The Purifications Center. It's semi-underground with vehicle access from the maintenance tunnels. If he's planning to eliminate witnesses, that's where he'd take them. They raced across the compound to the windowless building Jacob had experienced firsthand. Inside, they found empty hallways, abandoned and hay syringes and medical equipment left on trays. Down here, Maya led them to a service elevator hidden behind a storage room. It connects to the maintenance tunnels. Stone showed it to only his most trusted people. The elevator required a code. Maya tried several combinations before the doors opened. They change it weekly. This was last week's. They descended into a network of concrete tunnels, large enough for small vehicles. Fresh tire tracks marked the dusty floor. He can't have gone far. Harris radioed for roadblocks on all routes from the compound while they followed the tracks. Deeper into the tunnel system, the passages opened into a larger chamber with a vehicle bay. An SUV remained, its engine still warm. Beyond it, voices echoed from behind a heavy metal door. The tactical team took position while Harris tried to negotiate. Elijah Stone, FBI, we have the compound secured. Come out with your hands visible. Silence. Then Stone's voice replied with surprising calm. Agent Harris, a pleasure to finally meet you, even under these circumstances. Release any hostages and surrender peacefully, Harris continued. Hostages. Stone sounded amused. I have no hostages, only devoted followers preparing for spiritual transition. Jacob recognized the euphemism with horror. He's starting the ascensions now. Harris signaled the tactical team to prepare for breach. Stone, we know about the purification drugs, the financial fraud, everything. There's no escape. There's always transcendence. Stone replied cryptically. The tactical team breached the door, flooding into a chamber that resembled a medical facility. 8 cult members lay on gurneys, 4 lines connected to their arms. Stone stood at a control panel, his finger hovering over a button. Roland and 2 other security personnel stood nearby, weapons drawn. One more step and they received their full ascension dose, Stone warned, indicating the IVs. Instantly fatal. The FBI team halted, weapons trained on Stone and his men. Jacob assessed the standoff, noting the sedated cult members all from Maya's list of those targeted for ascension. Lower your weapons, Harris ordered Stone's men. Nobody needs to die today. Roland's eyes met Jacob's across the room, a silent communication passing between them. The enforcer's expression revealed conflict, calculation. These souls have chosen transcendence, Stone insisted. Their earthly attachments, including their wealth, have already been released to our sacred work. You mean your offshore accounts? Jacob called out, stepping forward despite Harris's warning gesture. It's over, Stone. The evidence is with the FBI, Amelia's records, Maya's files, my recordings of your conversations. Your congressman friends can't help you now. Stone's composure cracked slightly at the mention of Amelia. Your sister was confused, corrupted by worldly attachments. My sister saw through your spiritual fraud, Jacob countered, moving closer despite the danger. She was going to expose you, so you killed her and called it transcendence. She chose her path, Stone insisted, finger still hovering over the button dot. Jacob continued, advancing slowly. Did she, or did you choose it for her when she threatened your operation? Just like you're choosing for these people now. Stone's eyes darted between Jacob and the FBI agents. One more step and I complete their journey. And then what? Jacob asked. You'll be captured or killed anyway. Is that how your story ends? Not as a spiritual leader but as a mass murderer cornered in a basement. Uncertainty flickered across Stone's face, the first time Jacob had seen the cult leader's confidence waver. Before Stone could respond, Roland made his move in one fluid motion. The security chief turned his weapon away from the FBI and toward Stone. It's finished. Elijah. Stone stared in shock at his trusted enforcer. Roland? After everything, I've enforced many things for you, Roland said quietly. Justified them as necessary for our mission. But this, drugging the faithful to hide your crimes, this has no justification. The distraction was enough. FBI tactical agents rushed forward, securing Stone and disconnecting the IVs from the unconscious cult members. Medical personnel immediately began treatment to counteract the SEDATIVs. As agents handcuffed Stone, he locked eyes with Jacob. You understand nothing about what I've built. I understand everything, Jacob replied. The manipulation, the exploitation of vulnerability, the spiritual packaging around simple greed. I understand because I've used those same techniques myself. The difference is, I never pretended it was for anyone's good but my own. As Stone was led away, Roland approached Jacob, still under guard but not handcuffed. I'm turning state's evidence, the enforcer said simply. Everything I know about the operation, the deaths, all of it. Why the change of heart? Jacob asked. Roland glanced at the cult members being treated by medics. Your sister asked me the same question once, before she died. I didn't have an answer then, I do now. And what's that? Some lines shouldn't be crossed, even in the name of purpose. Roland met Jacob's gaze steadily. I couldn't save her. Maybe this helps balance the scales. As Roland was led away to give his statement, Maya joined Jacob, watching the raid's aftermath. It's really over, she said softly. Jacob nodded, though he knew the true ending was still to come. Justice for Amelia and all the others who had fallen victim to Stone's manipulations. The con had been exposed, but the healing was just beginning. Broke over the compound as FBI agents continued processing the scene. Medical teams tended to cult members, many of whom were emerging from sedation confused and frightened. Jacob watched from the perimeter, exhaustion finally catching up with him as the adrenaline faded. Maya approached, wrapped in a blanket provided by emergency services. The 8-member Stone was preparing for ascension, will recover. She reported no permanent damage. That's something, Jacob nodded, and the others being processed and debriefed. Most had no idea what Stone was planning. They thought the relocation was a genuine spiritual retreat. Maya's voice carried both relief and sadness. They're victims, not accomplices. Agent Harris joined them, looking equally exhausted but satisfied. Stone isn't talking, but Roland's cooperation is invaluable. He's detailing every financial transaction, every death disguised as ascension. Combined with your evidence, we have an airtight case. What about the members? Jacob asked. Some have nothing to return to, no money, no homes. We're coordinating with support services, Harris assured him, and the financial forensics team is already tracing Stone's accounts. With any luck, we can recover some of what he stole. Jacob thought about the cult members, people who had sought meaning in community, only to be manipulated and exploited. They'll need more than just money. The psychological damage? We have cult deprogramming specialists arriving this afternoon, Harris said. It's a long road, but they'll have support. Maya looked across the compound where members were being loaded onto buses for processing. I should be with them. They know me. Trust me. I can help explain what's happening. Harris nodded. That would be helpful. We'll arrange transportation. As Maya prepared to join the other members, she turned to Jacob. What about you? What happens next? It was a question Jacob had been avoiding. His mission was accomplished. Stone arrested, evidence secured, justice for Amelia in process. But the future remained uncertain. His life as a conman seemed impossible to return to, yet he had no clear alternative. I need to see this through, he said finally. The trial? The testimony? After that, I don't know. Maya studied him thoughtfully. You know, these people will need advocates, someone who understands both manipulation and recovery. Someone who can help them rebuild their trust in others. The suggestion caught Jacob off guard. I'm hardly qualified. I've spent years exploiting trust, not building it. Maybe that's exactly what qualifies you, Maya countered. You understand the techniques because you've used them yourself. You can help people recognize manipulation before they fall victim to it again. Before Jacob could respond, a commotion erupted near the compound entrance. A security team was escorting a handcuffed Stone toward a transport vehicle when the cult leader suddenly broke free, shoving an agent aside and sprinting toward the perimeter. Jacob reacted instinctively, cutting across the lawn to intercept Stone's escape route. Years of quick thinking and hyper-shurikans had honed his reflexes. He tackled Stone just before the cult leader reached the tree line, both men crashing to the ground. Stone fought with surprising strength, his composed spiritual leader persona completely abandoned. You've destroyed everything, he snarled, eyes wild with rage. Jacob pinned him as FBI agents raced to assist. No, Stone, you destroyed it yourself. The moment you decided exploitation was enlightenment. As agents secured Stone and led him away, Jacob remained on the ground, suddenly overwhelmed by the finality of it all. Amelia's mission was complete. Stone would face justice. The cult members would begin healing. Agent Harris helped him to his feet. That was quite a tackle for a tech entrepreneur. Jacob brushed dirt from his clothes, knowing his cover identity was irrelevant now. I played some football in college. Harris smiled slightly. Among other skills, not on your resume I imagine? He studied Jacob thoughtfully. We'll need your formal statement, of course, and eventually, testimony at trial. Of course, Jacob agreed. After that, double quotes. Harris hesitated. Your methods were unorthodox, possibly crossed some legal lines. But the outcome, preventing mass casualties, bringing Stone to justice, that counts for something. Jacob understood the implicit message. His own questionable past might be overlooked in light of his role in bringing down Stone. Thank you, he said simply. As the morning progressed, Jacob gave his formal statement, detailing everything from his initial infiltration to the final confrontation. He omitted certain aspects of his background, but was otherwise truthful about his mission to investigate Amelia's death. By afternoon, the compound was fully secured. Cult members had been transported to a processing center for interviews and support services. Stone and his key lieutenants were in federal custody, and forensic teams continued collecting evidence. Jacob found Maya helping former members connect with family members using the contact information she had saved from the compound records. Her quiet competence and genuine compassion stood in stark contrast to the manipulation they had all experienced under Stone. You're good at this, Jacob observed, joining her as she finished a call with a member's worried parents. Just doing what Amelia would have done, Maya replied. She always saw people clearly, their vulnerabilities, yes, but also their strength. Like you saw me, Jacob asked. A conman with a conscience. Maya smiled slightly. Something like that. They sat in companionable silence, watching the activity around them. Finally, Jacob spoke the question that had been troubling him since the raid. Do you think it matters? That I came here for revenge, rather than justice? That I've spent years conning people instead of helping them? Maya considered this. I think motives evolve. You came for Amelia, but you stayed for everyone else trapped in Stone's web. You could have escaped with just her evidence, but you came back for me, helped save the others. That doesn't erase what I've done before, Jacob pointed out. No, Maya agreed, but it might be the beginning of something new. As the sun began to set, Jacob received clearance to leave the scene. The formal investigation would continue for months, but his immediate role was complete. What will you do now? Harris asked as Jacob prepared to depart. Jacob looked across the compound that had housed so much deception, yet also genuine human connection, and now, perhaps, healing. I think I'll stick around, he decided. These people will need someone who understands what they've been through when the trial begins. Someone who can help them make sense of how they were manipulated. Harris nodded approvingly. There's a victim's advocacy position that might interest you, given your unique perspective on the case. I'll consider it, Jacob said, realizing he meant it. As he walked away from the compound, Jacob felt lighter than he had in years. The burden of Amelia's unsolved death had been lifted, replaced by a new sense of purpose. His phone buzzed with a message from Maya, meeting with former members tomorrow, 10 a.m. Your insights would be valuable. If you're staying, Jacob smiled and typed his reply, I'll be there. For the first time since receiving news of Amelia's death, Jacob felt he was on the right path, not running a con, but helping dismantle one. Not exploiting vulnerabilities, but helping heal them. It wasn't redemption, not yet, but it was a beginning. 6 weeks after the raid, Jacob sat in the back of a federal courtroom, watching Stone's empire crumble through legal proceedings. The preliminary hearing had drawn media attention, with reporters sketching the disgraced cult leader as he sat stoically at the defense table. The charges were extensive: wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, practicing medicine without a license, and 17 counts of second-degree murder, one for each ascended member, including Amelia. Jacob listened as the prosecutor outlined the financial structure Stone had created: a web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and fraudulent charities that had funneled millions into his personal control. Forensic accountants had traced over $30 million through the network, with additional assets still being discovered. Maya slipped into the seat beside him. Sorry I'm late. The support group ran long. In the weeks since the raid, Maya had become an essential resource for former cult members, helping them process their experiences and rebuild their lives. Her natural empathy, combined with her understanding of Stone's manipulation techniques, made her uniquely qualified for the role. What did I miss? She whispered. Financial details mostly, Jacob replied. They're building the foundation before getting to the deaths. On the witness stand, an FBI financial analyst detailed how Stone had systematically drained members' assets through the Transcendence Trust, with the largest transfers coinciding with members' deaths. The defendant executed a transfer of $2.4 million from Amelia Mercer's accounts 2 days after her purification session began. But 3 days before her reported suicide, the analyst testified, Ms. Mercer would have been heavily sedated at the time, incapable of authorizing such transactions. Jacob felt a grim satisfaction as the evidence mounted. Amelia's meticulous documentation, combined with Roland's insider testimony and the physical evidence from the compound, had created an overwhelming case against Stone. During a recess, Agent Harris approached them in the hallway. Roland testifies. Tomorrow, he informed them, his cooperation has been invaluable. Details on each death, Stone's direct orders, the purification protocols. Will he get a deal? Jacob asked. Harris nodded. Reduced charges in exchange for complete testimony. He'll still serve time, but he's giving us everything. The prosecution's case continued through the afternoon, presenting evidence of Stone's medical fraud. A toxicologist explained how the purification drugs could mimic natural death when administered in high doses, making murder appear as heart failure or stroke. By day's end, even Stone's composed facade had begun to crack. His attorney's objections grew more desperate as damning evidence accumulated. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Jacob and Maya. Vanessa Chen, now working on a documentary about the case, intercepted them. Jacob, can you comment on today's proceedings? She asked. Camera rolling. Jacob had agreed to limited interviews, understanding that public exposure of Stone's methods might help prevent future exploitation. The evidence speaks for itself, he answered carefully. Stone created a system designed to extract maximum financial benefit from vulnerable people, then eliminate anyone who questioned him. And your sister was one of those people, another reporter called out. Jacob paused, the question hitting a still raw nerve. My sister was a hero, he said finally. She uncovered Stone's crimes at the cost of her life. Everything presented today exists because of her courage. Maya squeezed his hand supportively as they navigated through the media scrum to a waiting car. Later that evening, in the apartment Jacob had rented near the federal building, they reviewed notes for their upcoming testimony. Both would be key witnesses, Maya as a former insider, Jacob as the person who had gathered critical evidence. Stone's attorney will try to discredit you, Maya warned. They'll bring up your background, suggest you fabricated evidence. Jacob had anticipated this. His history as a conman would become public during cross-examination. Let them try. The evidence stands on its own: financial records, medical protocols, Roland's testimony. My past doesn't change what Stone did. Maya studied him thoughtfully. You've changed since we met. The man who infiltrated the compound was focused on revenge. Now you're fighting for justice for everyone. Amelia would have wanted that, Jacob said simply. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Agent Harris. Jacob answered on speakerphone. Stone is trying to make a deal, Harris announced without preamble. His attorney approached the prosecutor an hour ago. Jacob sat up straight. What kind of deal? He'll plead guilty to the financial crimes and take a 20-year sentence if we drop the murder charges, Harris explained. Claims the deaths were voluntary spiritual choices, not homicides. That's absurd, Maya exclaimed. We have the purification protocols, the drug evidence, and Roland's testimony, Jacob added. Why would the prosecution even consider this? They aren't, Harris assured them. But Stone's desperation suggests he knows how damning tomorrow's testimony will be. He's trying to avoid a life sentence. After Harris hung up, Jacob stood by the window, Watching the city lights below, he's still trying to control the narrative, still claiming spiritual authority while dodging responsibility. Just like in the compound, Maya agreed. Everything reframed to maintain his power. The next morning, they arrived at the courthouse to find an unexpected scene. A crowd had gathered former cult members, holding candles and photos of the ascended. Among them stood Patricia, Daniel, and the two sisters who had escaped with them, now organizing a support network for survivors. Inside, the courtroom fell silent as Roland took the stand. The former enforcer looked diminished in his prison jumpsuit, his imposing presence reduced to that of a man facing his own culpability. His testimony was devastating in its directness. He described in clinical detail how Stone had ordered special purification for members who threatened his authority, particularly those who questioned financial practices or attempted to leave. Amelia Mercer was placed under surveillance after she accessed financial records, Roland testified. Stone personally administered her final purification dose after determining she had evidence of his offshore accounts. Jacob watched Stone's expression harden as his former lieutenant methodically dismantled any defense of spiritual practice or voluntary ascension. By the time Roland described writing Amelia's suicide note under Stone's direction, several jurors were openly weeping. During Crow's examination, Stone's attorney attempted to portray Roland as the true architect of the deaths. Following a common strategy of deflecting blame to cooperating witnesses, Roland remained steady. "I bear responsibility for my actions," he acknowledged. "But every death, every purification, every financial transfer occurred under Elijah Stone's direct orders. He designed the system. We implemented it." By day's end, Stone's attorney appeared defeated. As court adjourned, Stone finally broke his silence, standing abruptly. "They came to me for salvation," he shouted as marshals moved to restrain him. "I gave them purpose. They were nothing before me." The outburst revealed what Jacob had always suspected. Beneath Stone's spiritual veneer lay simple narcissism and greed. His empire hadn't been built on enlightenment but on exploitation, and now it was collapsing completely under the weight of evidence and testimony. Outside, Maya linked her arm through Jacob's as they walked past the media gauntlet. "One step closer to justice," she said quietly. Jacob nodded. Knowing Amelia would have appreciated not just Stone's downfall, but the healing beginning among those he had exploited. The truth, finally exposed, was setting them all free. 3 months after Roland's testimony, the verdict came down, guilty on all counts. Stone received multiple life sentences without possibility of parole. His lieutenants received lesser sentences based on their level of involvement and cooperation. Roland, in exchange for his testimony, was sentenced to 15 years. The media circus eventually subsided, but the healing process for cult survivors was just beginning. Jacob found himself increasingly involved in their recovery, his unique perspective proving valuable in support groups and individual counseling sessions. On a crisp autumn morning, Jacob stood with Maya outside the former compound, now empty and slated for sale, the proceeds designated for a victim restitution fund. Yellow crime scene tape still fluttered in places, a reminder of all that had happened there. "Hard to believe. It's been 6 months, Maya said, surveying the grounds where she had spent 3 years of her life. Jacob nodded. "Some days it feels like yesterday, other days, like a lifetime ago." They had come to collect personal items finally released by the FBI after the conclusion of the trial. For Maya, it was a box of journals and photographs from her time before the cult. For Jacob, it was Amelia's belongings, clothes, books, and a small collection of jewelry recovered from her room. "What will you do with her things?" Maya asked as they walked back to the car. "Most will go to charity," Jacob replied. "Except this." He held up a simple silver pendant, a compass rose on a delicate chain. "She always wore it, said it would help her find her way if she got lost." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Amelia had found her way morally, even as it led to her death. Later that day, they attended a memorial service for the 17 ascended members. Families had come from across the country to honor loved ones whose deaths had been disguised as spiritual transcendence. The service was held in a community center where former cult members now gathered weekly for support meetings. Patricia, who had emerged as a natural leader among the survivors, had organized the event. "We're here not just to mourn, but to reclaim the truth of who these people were," she told the gathering. "Not ascended spirits or transcended souls, but human beings with dreams, flaws, and the courage to question what they were told." One by one, family members shared stories of their loved ones who they had been before Stone, what had drawn them to the cult, how they had begun asking questions before their deaths. When Jacob's turn came, he stood slowly, still uncomfortable. "With public speaking, my sister Amelia believed in justice," he began. "When she discovered what was happening at Eternal Light, she could have simply left. Instead, she stayed to gather evidence, to protect others, knowing the risk." He paused, gathering himself. "I didn't understand her choice then. I do now." After the service, many former members approached Jacob, sharing how Amelia had helped them, shown kindness, or encouraged them to think critically. Each story revealed a piece of his sister. He hadn't known her impact on others during her final months. An elderly couple waited until the crowd thinned before approaching. "You must be Jacob," the woman said. "Amelia spoke of you often." Jacob was surprised she did. The man nodded. "We were in her reflection group. She said her brother was the cleverest person she knew, but that he used his talents for the wrong reasons. She believed you would find a better path eventually." The comment struck Jacob deeply. Even while fighting her own battles, Amelia had maintained faith in him. That evening, Jacob met with Agent Harris at a quiet restaurant away from the former cult members and media attention. The FBI agent had become something of a mentor during the months of investigation and trial. "The Bureau is pleased with the outcome," Harris said after they ordered. "Stone's financial network is being dismantled, assets recovered for victims. Your testimony was crucial." "What happens now?" Jacob asked. "With the investigation concluded," Harris studied him thoughtfully. "That depends. What do you want to happen?" It was a question Jacob had been considering for months. His old life, as a conman, was behind him, impossible to return to after all he'd witnessed and experienced. "I've been helping with the survivor support groups," Jacob said. "It seems to make a difference, having someone who understands manipulation from both sides." "I've heard," Harris nodded. "The Bureau has a civilian consultant position that might interest you. Working with our Cult Awareness Division, helping identify and investigate similar organizations." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "You want to hire a former conman?" "We want someone who understands how predators like Stone operate," Harris corrected. "Someone who can recognize the techniques because he's used them himself. Your sister saw the potential in you. So do we." The offer was unexpected, but strangely fitting, using his skills to prevent exploitation rather than perpetrate it. "I'll consider it," Jacob promised. After dinner, Jacob walked through the city, processing everything. 6 months ago, he had infiltrated Eternal Light, seeking vengeance for Amelia. Now he was considering a role helping prevent similar tragedies. Phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Support group went well tonight. 3 members reconnected with family." Small victories. Those small victories had become increasingly important to Jacob. Former members rebuilding their lives, reclaiming their autonomy, healing from the manipulation they had experienced. In helping them, he had begun healing himself. He found himself outside a small neighborhood park where families gathered despite the evening chill. Children played on swings while parents chatted, nearby ordinary lives, untouched by the kind of exploitation he had witnessed and, in his former career, participated in. Jacob sat on a bench, watching them, his skills at reading people, understanding vulnerabilities, crafting persuasive narratives, all could be redirected toward protection rather than exploitation. Perhaps that was the legacy Amelia deserved, her brother using his talents to shield others from predators like Stone, rather than becoming one himself. His phone buzzed again. A message from Vanessa. "Documentary premieres next month. Your interview was powerful. Still need final thoughts for closing segment. Available tomorrow." The documentary would expose Stone's methods to a wider audience, potentially preventing others from falling victim to similar schemes. Jacob had initially hesitated to participate but ultimately recognized its value as a warning. "I'll be there," he texted back. As night fell, Jacob made his way home. Passing a street musician playing a hauntingly familiar melody, one of Amelia's favorites, he paused, dropping a generous tip into the open guitar case. "Any requests?" the musician asked. Jacob shook his head. "Just keep playing that one." He continued walking, the music fading behind him. Tomorrow would bring more survivor meetings, more healing, more steps toward a different future than he had ever imagined for himself. It wasn't redemption, not completely, but it was purpose, something he hadn't truly had since long before Amelia's death. Perhaps that was what his sister had found at Eternal Light, before discovering its corruption. Not the false spirituality Stone peddled, but genuine purpose in helping others. In the end, she had stayed not for herself, but for those who couldn't see the danger they were in. Now Jacob would do the same, in his own way. It wouldn't bring Amelia back, but it might give meaning to her sacrifice. 1 year to the day after the raid on Eternal Light, Jacob stood before a crowd in a university auditorium. The audience a mix of psychology students, law enforcement officers, and counseling professionals listened attentively as he described the manipulation techniques Stone had employed. "Cults and con artists target the same human vulnerabilities," Jacob explained. "The need for meaning, for connection, for certainty in an uncertain world. The difference lies in the scale and depth of exploitation." He had accepted Harris's offer to work as a consultant with the FBI's Cult Awareness Division, while also developing a program to educate potential victims about manipulation tactics. His past as a conman had become an asset rather than a liability firsthand. Knowledge few legitimate experts possessed. "The most dangerous predators aren't those who appeal to our worst instincts," Jacob continued. "They're those who twist our best instincts, our desire for purpose, for spiritual growth, for making a difference, into tools of exploitation." After the lecture, Maya joined him backstage. Their friendship had evolved into a partnership over the past year, with Maya focusing on survivor recovery while Jacob worked on prevention and awareness. "Good crowd," she observed. though I noticed you still get uncomfortable during the Q&A portion. Jacob smiled ruefully. Old habits. Conmen prefer monologues to dialogues, less chance of slipping up. They walked together to a nearby restaurant, where former cult members gathered monthly for an informal support dinner. The group had evolved from therapy sessions into a genuine community, people connected not just by trauma but by recovery and growth. Patricia waved them over to a large table. At 72, she had become the unofficial matriarch of the survivor community. Her retirement funds partially recovered through the restitution process. Just in time, she greeted them. "We're discussing the memorial garden." The survivors had collectively purchased a small plot of land near the city park, creating a place of remembrance for the 17 ascended members. The garden would be dedicated next month, on the anniversary of the verdict. As dinner progressed, Jacob observed the transformation in people who had once been hollow-eyed victims. Daniel was finishing college, the two sisters had started a small business, and others had reconnected with family or found new purpose. Their recovery wasn't complete. Trauma never vanished entirely, but they were reclaiming their lives. "We've had another 3 inquiries this week," Maya told him as they shared dessert. "People recognizing warning signs in groups they're involved with thanks to your awareness program." Jacob nodded, satisfied. Prevention had become as important to him as justice stopping exploitation before it claimed more victims. After dinner, Jacob drove to the cemetery, where Amelia was buried. Her body had been exhumed from the cult's private cemetery and properly laid to rest in the city. He visited monthly, updating her on the progress of his work as if she could hear. The simple headstone read, "Amelia Mercer, beloved sister, her courage saved many." Jacob placed fresh flowers beside it, then sat on the bench he'd installed nearby. "1 year," he said quietly. "Your case is officially closed in FBI records, but your work continues. The survivor network keeps growing. The awareness program has reached thousands." A gentle breeze rustled the cemetery trees as twilight descended. "I took your compass pendant to the jeweler," Jacob continued, "had it restored and reinforced. I keep it with me now." He touched the pocket where the silver compass nestled. "Still helping me find my way." The sound of footsteps on gravel announced another visitor. Jacob turned to see Roland, accompanied by a corrections officer. The former enforcer's cooperation and continued testimony against Stone's international connections had earned him limited privileges, including this supervised visit. Jacob stood, nodding acknowledgement. Their relationship was complex. Roland had participated in Amelia's death, yet had also helped bring Stone to justice and continued providing information that protected others. "Thank you for allowing this," Roland said formally. He placed a small stone on Amelia's headstone, a Jewish tradition of remembrance Jacob hadn't expected from him. "She spoke to me once," Roland continued, his voice low, "before the end, said that following orders didn't absolve responsibility, that we always have choices." He glanced at Jacob. She was talking about herself, to her choice to stay and gather evidence despite the danger. The corrections officer maintained a respectful distance as the two men stood in silent recognition of Amelia's sacrifice. "The information I provided last month," Roland said finally, "about Stone's international connections, has it been useful?" Jacob nodded. 3 similar operations identified in Europe, interventions in progress. "Good." Roland looked relieved. "It doesn't balance the scales. Nothing could. But perhaps it prevents more deaths." After Roland departed, Jacob remained by Amelia's grave until stars appeared overhead. His phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. Documentary 1, Justice, Media Award. Broadcast reach now 20 million, making a difference. The documentary had indeed made a difference, exposing Stone's methods to a wide audience while respecting the dignity of survivors. Jacob had initially feared it would sensationalize their trauma, but Vanessa had created something educational, instead a warning rather than entertainment. The next morning, Jacob met Harris at FBI headquarters to review reports of a possible cult operation in the Midwest. The pattern was familiar: charismatic leader, isolated compound, financial exploitation disguised as spiritual advancement. "We're sending in an assessment team," Harris explained. "Your insight on the recruitment materials would be valuable." Jacob reviewed the glossy brochures and website printouts, recognizing the manipulation techniques immediately. "Classic love bombing combined with crisis, creation, and solution offering," he noted. "Very similar to Stone's early approach. Worth investigating?" Harris asked. "Definitely," Jacob confirmed. "The financial structure is sophisticated for a new organization, likely an experienced operator." As they finished, Harris mentioned casually, "The director was impressed with your contribution to the international investigation. There's talk of expanding the program." Jacob had come a long way from the angry brother seeking revenge. Now he was helping build systems to protect vulnerable people from predators like Stone, like his former self. That evening, Jacob attended a small gathering at Maya's apartment to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of their escape. Only those who had been there that night were invited: the 2 sisters, Daniel, Patricia, and Jacob. "To freedom," Maya toasted, raising her glass. "And to those who helped us find it." "To Amelia," Jacob added softly, who started the journey. Later, as the gathering wound down, Maya joined Jacob on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Any regrets, she asked, about how your life has changed this past year? Jacob considered the question seriously. I regret not understanding Amelia better when she was alive, not supporting her when she tried to fight injustice through legitimate channels, and now I'm trying to honor her approach rather than undermining it, Jacob replied, using my skills to protect rather than exploit. It's different, harder in some ways, more satisfying in others. Maya smiled. She would be proud of you. I hope so, Jacob said quietly, as he drove home that night. Jacob reflected on the journey, from conman to consultant, from seeking revenge to building protection. The compass pendant rested against his chest, a constant reminder of Amelia's moral direction. His phone rang, the secure line reserved for potential cult intervention reports. A new case? Another opportunity to prevent what had happened to Amelia, and so many others, Jacob answered, ready to help guide others away from exploitation and toward genuine healing. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was the one Amelia had always believed he was capable of living, using his understanding of manipulation to fight it rather than perpetuate it. As he turned toward FBI headquarters, Jacob touched the compass pendant once more. Still finding my way, he whispered. Still following your lead. The conman who had joined a cult to bring it down had found something unexpected in the process, not just justice for his sister, but redemption. For himself? Not complete, not perfect, but real. That, Jacob realized, was something worth building upon. One saved life at a time. If this story touched your heart, like and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts in the comments below about cults or redemption stories you've heard before.